All right, round 10 of the Medical Devices Fund is open, and this is for the commercialisation of medical devices in New South Wales. So this round 10 closes on the 1st of March 2022. Total funding is around $8 million or something, and maximum funding of $5 million with minimum 500. So I'll just run through some of the steps that I would go through in evaluating this application. All right, so let's go to the guidelines. So it changes a little bit every year. What I like to do is look for one thing first, which is called the assessment, the selection criteria, often called the merit criteria in other grants. So page 7, scroll down, we can skip all that. Oh, there we go, $8.2 million pool. So you can obviously work out whether you're applicable or eligible in this process, but I want to know how you're assessed. So section 5, we've got 2 sections, one being the applicant and 2 being the project. So little quick check on here. New South Wales-based organisation, of course, not a subsidiary, derived from activities of research employees, so really not buying in your IP. The organisation must benefit from medical devices fund investing opportunity. It need not be financial. Okay, so these are all pretty simple for the applicant. The organisation, researcher, employee has to have some ongoing role. So not really an outsourced project, so it's really an internal project. The organisation will derive financial benefit if the technology is commercialised. Well, that should be fairly obvious. The organisation receiving some of the funding to complete the project activities. Yes, you want to be doing the project yourself. And the organisation will gain recognition, kudos, if the technology is commercialised. Yes. So if you look at some of them that have received it in the past, they've gone on to get other grants, other funding, win other awards. And then they want to obviously be able to say, hey, we funded that. The New South Wales government funded that in the past. Okay, so this is where I think, normally they would weight the criteria, but they haven't weighted this one. I would say that the applicant is minimal, and this is where it's at. So demonstrate the potential state, national and international significance of the medical device and how it would improve people's health and well-being. So you need to go do your research on the significance of the problem that it is that you are solving. If you can find any data on the international problem, that's going to be good, or if it's very country specific, go to find that as well. Demonstrate how the medical device will potentially deliver economic, social, and/or environmental benefits. If you can work at the dollar value of the problem, so some illnesses have a dollar value. I've done research to work at the dollar value of impact of that illness. If you can derive that figure and then quantify that for the same population in New South Wales, that would be good, unless it's already been done previously. Demonstrate how the medical device will result in improved clinical outcomes, practice efficiency or effectiveness, ease of use, quality, or improved safety. So where you can, try to quantify this. So let's say efficiency. We can talk time saving, or we can talk quality, the improved outcomes, going up by 10%, or complications reduced by 500 people per year. Try to find something quantitative that you can relate that to. And then anything here obviously is any financial that you can find as well. All submissions will be assessed against the Australian regulatory requirements. So that's really it on what their assessment. And then the expert panel. So you can ask for any amount. I've found in the past, not this grant, but other grants, it doesn't really matter how much you're asking for. Obviously limited, if there's only a limited pool of $8.2 million, so if you're asking for all of it, there's going to be a problem. But if you're asking for 500 or 2 mil, there's often not a difference between how you're assessed. So given it's not part of the assessment criteria, it doesn't actually come into it. Obviously it needs to be enough to actually get the grant. So let's see how else I would go and assess this. Now, the other thing I do is I go and see what they funded in the past. So this has been going for many years, almost 10 years now, this program. So let's go back to 2019 and we can see what they've liked to fund in the past. This can help you work out whether, you are very similar. And So let's look at here. Yeah, Bay Machob. I'm not sure what that stands for. Not easy to say. So you can see they've received funding. So you can do a bit of research on to see where they were at in their technology development cycle, and what research they'd done previously, what IP they'd already had. So I would go back and evaluate yourselves against previous recipients. And then you can also get an idea of the, because you have to provide an image. So here's some good renderings that they have done. So you can see where you stack up against these competitors. And you can also see how they have described themselves. So you have to have a response or in your application. So have a look at the structure that they have used to describe themselves and the opportunity. So it's a very good sort of cheat sheet to enable yourself to copy them. And then another good rendering. They state the problem, how it's going to be fixed, how big the problem is. So that's sort of the general process. So the main thing is, look, recipients, do you stack up against them? All right, so then we look at what we need to provide. So we've got the application form, the business model canvas. That's like a one-page business plan summary, just to really condense what you're doing. It's not mentioned here, but you've got to provide a video, 3-minute video, and then here's the guidelines. So very simple. So let's have a look at the application form. All right, so let's look at the application form, Word version. Look at the video. It doesn't need to be very professional video. 3 minutes. Basically what I'm doing now, you could do something very similar to that. Someone's using an app called Loom. You could have an image of your product actually up here and do it that way. But it's just a good way to, I guess, for the expert panel, the assessment panel, to understand a bit more about you and your product. I've also found in my experience in writing grants that there's a big difference between what people write in an application form and then what they say over the phone or in person. So in person or over the phone, it's much more succinct about what the problem is, whereas I've seen in application forms, people have copy and pasted business plans from the past or the issue, and it is not as succinct and as powerful as just someone verbalising it very quickly. So that's why I would highly recommend doing that. What do we need to do? Business canvas model, that's fine. Financials, get your year-to-dates, so up until December. And evidence of the feasibility, both technical and clinical, IP status attached. So go and check what the previous applicants had, or get a sense. You can look at their patents, but it's going to be something of that nature since we're talking about medical device commercialisation. So we have a very long lead time. So this is not a project that you want to get up and running straight away. So you are not commencing your project until August. Or September. So let's say they normally take a long time anyway. So let's say September. You may not be even starting until January 2023. By the time you get notified, sign the contract, and then you've actually got to go to find the right personnel if you do not have them to be able to commence that project. So just think that this, could be a 2-year process. So briefly describe the device in lay terms. So get someone to read it that doesn't really understand your technology and make sure it is very simple to them. Look at the previous examples of what they funded in the past, who have dumbed it down, quite significantly to make anyone. So they think about it. They want to publish this information. So can anyone from New South Wales understand what the product is solving? High resolution image in JPEG format. If you haven't done one already, jump onto Fiverr or Upwork and get someone to just mock that up. They can look pretty good. So the next thing to do is, so applicant details, project title, and then pattern. So pretty, tick box style of stuff. Go through your financials. Have you applied before? Normally, I don't know about this one, but on a lot of occasions, it takes a number of attempts to get an application up. So I'm not sure whether that's true for this style of grant, but check previously and see whether it's been done before. So let's have a look at what else we've got. Okay, for the medical device. What is the scientific technological basis of the device? So once again, keep it pretty simple. You've only got 150 words, so you're not going to be huge in the amount of detail you're going to put in here. The level of innovation will create a compelling case for change. One thing, you've only got 200 words, so it's only going to be a few more words more than what the previous applicants put on their description. There's a clear understanding of the technology readiness level. If you're in this sort of space, you should know where your product sits. If not, look it up. What question was that one? The current stage of development. So, I guess the question you could ask yourself is, what are you going to do for a year since you can't develop this product? Or where is it going to be in a year that you're going to then commercialise from then on? Okay, so key elements of intellectual property. In some instances, patents may not be required, but look at what others have done. I don't know the market for trade secrets, but you may be able to go and get a provisional patent beforehand. Okay, so has any freedom to operate work been undertaken? I would say I would go and do this. So make sure you can actually go and do the work. You could do that in conjunction with all that. So yes, I would answer that yes, and then go do that research. It hasn't asked you to explain it. So yeah, you don't want to get to the point where they're going to ask you in the next round, can you continue with this, and you haven't done it. But I would assume, since you're in this field, you've actually done that research. But if you haven't, go and do it now. Regulatory pathway. That could be an issue in terms of if it's going to be very hard. So governments in general want to have low risk. So I don't know, a lot of other industries, if it's impossible to get into the market, or only have to work with government or government approvals, I know this from experience in working with the education sector or the emergency services sector or hospitals. So someone will produce a great app that all hospitals can use, but in order to get that in there, it's basically impossible. So make sure you've identified what that is and what you're going to do to overcome that. Describe the stage of prototype development, completed works. Okay, that's pretty simple. Provide details of stakeholders or groups that you've consulted. Okay, so this, I would say you've gone and spoken to anyone that's going to be using your product. So if you can go and name hospitals or end user groups or any sort of study you've done, make sure that you complete that. So this is an easy one. You want to show that there's a market demand for your product and that there's a willingness for people to almost buy it. So the closer you can get to people knocking on your door and saying, I really want this product, that's where you want to be. So you want to have very low barriers to accessing the market. Okay, what is the scope of the project and what are the top 3 goals? Once again, you've only got 200 words, so you can't say much about that, but try to have something that you can measure. At the end, ideally you want to have a product that's ready to go to market. I'm not sure where others were on that, but the closer you can be to having a product at the end and not requiring another 5 mil of funding, that's going to be good. Okay, project milestones, project start, project end, and then put in some milestones along the way. Pretty simple stuff. What have we got here? Start month, end month. Do a little Gantt chart, as always good. Just do an Excel, just simple is what I find. It's also good if you span multiple financial years. Often they ask for that for cash flow. They haven't asked for that over financial years. But okay, you want to have, I don't know what the minimum is, but you'd want to have a high percent. Just check what their minimum is. If it's not 100%, then they'll be asking questions. There may be a reason to take it overseas. For some aspects of it, for specialty testing centres or personnel. Okay, the key members of the team, obviously they want to have a lot of experience in either commercialisation or research from this actual field. Put them down, provide details of the developments currently taking place locally and internationally. So that sounds a bit like a competitor analysis. Who's already doing this stuff? You want to have a good understanding of who is already in the market. Maybe ideally you've actually spoken to them and saying, hey, this would connect in with your product. If there's a direct competitor that's further advanced, then that isn't going to look good in your application. So you might need to either address that. Okay, so this is the health and other benefits. A typical patient who will use a device. Okay, so once again, look at the previous recipient, see how they describe their patient who's going to use it, and then if you can quantify that as well. But obviously, what illness do they have? And obviously, you said currently and in 10 years, so is it a growing area? So this illness is growing at 5%, and by 2030, we estimate there'll be 500,000 people with this illness, that sort of thing. Outline the clinical relevance of this device, outline impact on clinical practice. Okay, you'd know how to do that. Once again, 250 words, keep it simple, use dot points where you can. The impact the device will have on the health system, if you can quantify the issue once again, or any financial metrics. So, this would save, $5 million per year from the New South Wales hospital system. That's sort of the things you're looking to put in here, or any issues with illness cost or delays, or what other impacts that you can find. If you can put a financial measure or quantitative measure, that's what you want to be putting in there. Any other applications this device may have. So this may be perfect for the medical or hospital arena, but then it also may be working in the defence sector when you go to war, or it may be able to have, I can't think of anything else, like a medical sporting, let's work on, or working in homes, or some other measure or the market that your product may suit. Is the project expected to create jobs in New South Wales, and the skill mix? So yes is always the answer. I would say this is the project. So you might have 5 jobs in New South Wales, but then in another 5 years you'll put on 10, 20, 30 people, something like that. And then also talk to the value chain. There may be other companies in the value chain that are working that may benefit from this as well. Okay, so now we've got how many words we're available for this section. Doesn't say. Oh, there you go, 500 words. So once again, look at the previous recipient, look what they've written up. What is the target customer segment? I would, 500 words, I would almost keep it in dot points, put the heading. So target must, put that as the heading. Put the value proposition as the heading. So it's very easy for them to follow this same structure. How much would you charge for your product? So you want to put in some realistic numbers in terms of, I guess, the recurring revenues. You're not going to have a massive hockey stick, but you are going to have some growth. If you can put comparable, if you don't know what your costs are going to be, put some comparables in there. Look like you know what you are talking about, even if you don't. So it's going to be $89.95 because of comparables in the market, or some evidence that you know how much you're going to charge. So the more you look like you know what you're doing, the better chance you're going to have. Do you expect the product to be reimbursed, as in the R&D spend? You want to be making money from this product, yes. How will you market, sell, and distribute the product to the target customers? So if you think you're going to go direct to consumer, you're going to want to have a direct to consumer team, or you've got you want to have someone on your team that has either taken it to market, or you've already got a distributor lined up. If you haven't, find those intermediaries or distributors now and say, yes, we have lined up. So once again, de-risk as much as possible. We have lined up the 3 biggest distributors in Australia to sell this product, and then we found, and they take it into Asia, and then we've got a US partner that's keen to take the product, that sort of thing. Describe the export market. So once again, you'd say, I'll choose the biggest market. So let's say we're first going to go to Asia because it's our closest neighbour, and the problem has been readily identified, and they're much more accepting of a solution, whereas something like the US hasn't been clearly identified yet, and there's not a big market demand. But we'll start in Asia first. Also, pick a market that you're going to go and take the product to next. If you just say you're going to go and dominate the world, and it's very airy-fairy comments, it's not going to fly. What are the key capabilities of the organisation? So obviously you've got the research. You want someone in operations and commercialisation. Someone that's done this previously is going to look good. So once again, de-risk it. They don't want to be seeing me giving it the money to 5 researchers that have no idea what to do in the business world. So make sure your business or your company has a good mix of the commercial side of it as well. Or you're going to partner with someone that can help you take it to that next level. Or you're going to hire that person at the end of this project that will then have that experience. What will the cost structure of organization look like? How we generate sustainable profit margin? Yes, so comes back to the gap. So if you finish this project and you're not commercial, how are you going to fund it? So that could be a risk. So think about how you're going to make money straight away if you're not going to get to that point. You just need to de-risk that project. So if it was me, I would say I'm going to sell the product on day one at the end of this project, and we're going to make money. How the product be manufactured or provided? We have already established key relationships in China to manufacture this product, or we're going to develop prototypes in Australia, and this. It may even look better to say we're going to do it in Australia if you haven't already done that research. So find someone in Australia that can help, that can manufacture it, and get a letter of support and get them endorsement on board. They're more than happy to do it because they're going to make money. But it might be simpler just to say, hey, we're going to get it made in Australia. No one's checking, no one's verifying this. But if they're a well-known product commercialisation company in Australia, it's going to look good on your resume effectively. Are there any key external industry relationships needs to develop, maintain, in order to be successful? Once again, don't put about things you need to go and do. Go and do them now. Or say, yes, we've already spoken to these are the key people, and we've already spoken to them, and we know the path. So once again, you've only got 500 words, so always talk in the positive frame if you can, as opposed to we think we're going to do this. Okay. Key personnel, they will be Googled, I imagine. Looked up their LinkedIn profile. Make sure your LinkedIn profile looks good. So that's really the hard stuff. A few references. That's fair enough. Professional. If you haven't won it by this point, this is not going to make much difference. Okay, so these are more just a tick box style. So that is the main area that you need to get to help you get the medical devices fund.